we are flexi test, and the problem we are focusing on is with all the work that already was going on, where we thought we were on a good path. COVID-19 exposed to many limitations when it actually happened. So this one quote kind of sets it all on what happened on March 27th. Testing just didn't work for many reasons. So digging deep into it, even if the test, the time of the testing was also a problem, but it kept on improving. But even after that, there are various delays in the way we even figure out the logistics, the supply chain of the testing, and actually executing the test in a safe way. What really happened, the biggest problems is there were log jams all over the place, and people were waiting for 10 days for the test results to come back, but the disease was so insidious and precipitous the 8th day. So the biggest issues were suddenly the human-to-human interaction, completely changed. Staffing levels completely were thrown out of water. Even the telehealth systems couldn't scale. And even if you were to use something, people didn't want, they wanted a way to do things in a telehealth way. Eventually, people are now talking about immunity passports. It's debatable, but if this could become reality, we need to figure out a way to do it right. That's basically what we're looking at. So the solution is, it's an audit-ready flow for the conversation, because most of the conversations with respect to testing or even telehealth in general in this context is completely stateless, in the sense like you made a call, you spoke to someone after a long wait, and the next time you want to try and talk to them, it might or might not be the same doctor, depending upon which telehealth service you are using, or if your PCP was in fact having or providing telehealth services. So it's completely random, depending upon where you live and how we got access to it. And we are not just looking at the US, we are looking at a global picture. And when we looked at all of these, it was clear that we needed much more a fluid system that doesn't just lock things into the EMR, and we needed a much lightweight system that people can rely on. And given the state of the testing, if the doctor were to say something, he has to have complete verifiability to say what he did, why he did, and even if the test turned out to be not a great test, how to go back and say, okay, these are the people that I had tested with, and this is what we said the results were. Now the test is dubious. Now what do we do? So this needs a complete thought process of what are the workflows, what are needed, that whatever we ran through doesn't happen again. So this is basically the solution components. The ones that we have already made progress quite significantly in the last 2.5 weeks is about the patient safety aspects of it, the workflow along that telehealth, and a wallet that could have a multi-dimensional identity component, because we are hearing from different places that immunity certificate is one piece of it, but the way somebody wants to say, this is how we will reopen and things like that has multiple other elements to it, based on, are you an essential worker? Are you moving from a red zone to an orange zone, or orange zone to a green zone? These are all examples happening all over the world. And then even from a reporting point of view, there are specific privacy regulations that you don't want to give any opening for discriminatory re-identification. And that's something we've been looking at. And finally, from a verifiable claims perspective, we were doing some work along those verifiable claims. We have jotted down some use cases and libraries that is work in progress right now. And we have been also looking at some of the newer concepts that have come up with proof of shared state off chain on chain. So the flow, what it basically does is it basically assumes a couple of things. Number one, we are not getting into the debate of whether these tests are available in sufficient quantities and they are reliable. We are making an assumption we will get there in 2 months, 3 months, whenever. So in that situation, what we were focusing on is, similar to the U-Port City of Zug model, we are trying to understand, and there are implementations in some countries. The example, the one that we have, where there are some biometric data that is already kind of issued to a large set of people, basically create a DID out of it for a particular state implementation, and use that DID and tie it to the UPC code of the vial to establish that provenance and be able to write to that patient wallet. So that what it basically avoids is the log jams that we ran into. And we are not talking about medical records on blockchain completely or boiling the ocean here. This is just a very specific test that the consumer basically gave a consent to, that can be recorded, as well as the certifying MD can actually sign onto basically being available back to the consumer. From a doctor point of view, the biggest thing we are thinking of right now is they need something to deal with an increasing escalation. That is the problem right now. By that, what we mean is they are already log jammed. They want to know, am I getting to the right person at the right time? And even if I'm not able to get to it, let them give the results. And once they give the result, once they call back, we can say, hey guys, you are fine. Let me get you back into it, get me back to you on a certain time frame. Because right now, that is what is causing a lot of anxiety to people. Access to the test is problem. And even if you got an access to test, you're waiting on the results. And even if you're waiting on the results to know what the doctor means and how critical it is, it's kind of like it's like a mad rush right now. So that's basically some streamlining that it could help with. These are the people that I've been talking to. So, and then the customer segments we are seeing, this is where we are seeing possibilities with. And then this is the team, myself, and people that have been making a case for it in multiple places. And we have people that are willing to kind of take it into what it means to the EMR eventually, and how do we, get this in context. And eventually, I want to say some thanks to the mentors that have been helping us.
There's a lot of content and a lot of functionality here. What are you actually solving for, Sathya?
What we are solving for is the time it takes for the test results to be back to the user as short as possible, and for the doctors to document that these are the things that they have done on telehealth, for any regulators to come back and say everything was done done correctly. And then anybody else that won't want to know what was the provenance between the telehealth visit, as well as the fact that that kit that was used for testing at home or eventually sent back to the lab has a provenance that we can actually tie the test to. And should there be any recalls of any sorts, there is a complete trail of what was done at different points.